I trusted my best friend with my home. I never imagined she would try to steal my husband. This is the story of the night everything I loved almost disappeared. Some betrayals you can forgive, but others change the way you see people forever. I never imagined that the person who would nearly destroy my home would be the same woman who once called me her sister. Her name was Monica. For 15 years, Monica and I were inseparable. We met in secondary school, shared secrets, studied together, and promised that no matter where life took us, we would always be there for each other. When I married Marcus, she stood proudly beside me as my chief bridesmaid, smiling in every photograph, cheering the loudest when we exchanged our vows. If anyone had told me that one day she would become the reason my marriage nearly collapsed, I would have laughed in disbelief. 3 years after my wedding, life felt almost perfect. Marcus and I lived in a modest but beautiful house. It wasn't luxurious, but it was peaceful. Marcus worked as a civil engineer while I ran a small fashion business from home. Our days were simple but filled with love, laughter, and quiet dreams about the future. At least, that was how things were. Until the night Monica called me, her voice sounded strange. Broken, please. Can I stay with you for a while? She asked. What happened? I asked immediately. There was silence on the phone before she whispered, my boyfriend threw me out of the house. I didn't even think twice. You can come here, I told her quickly. Your family. The next evening she arrived with 2 suitcases and swollen eyes. I hugged her tightly at the gate. You're safe here, I told her. Marcus welcomed her politely. After all, he had known Monica for years as my closest friend. At first, everything seemed normal. Monica helped around the house. She sometimes assisted me with small tasks in my fashion business. At night we would sit together talking about old memories, laughing the way we used to back in school. But after a few weeks, something began to change. Small things at first. Whenever Marcus came home from work, Monica was always the first to greet him. Welcome back, she would say brightly, rushing to the door before I even got there. Sometimes I would find the 2 of them sitting together in the living room watching television and laughing. I told myself there was nothing wrong with that. She was my best friend. He was my husband. Still, a small uneasy feeling began to settle in my chest. One afternoon I returned from the market earlier than expected. As I walked toward the kitchen, I heard their voices. You're the only one who understands me, Monica was saying softly. Marcus responded gently, though I couldn't hear exactly what he said. When I entered the kitchen, both of them suddenly went quiet. Monica quickly grabbed a glass of water. Oh, you're back already? She said with a forced smile. Something about the moment felt strange, but I pushed the thought away. Then one afternoon my neighbor, Mrs. Natasha, stopped me outside our gate. I hope you won't misunderstand me, she said carefully, but I've noticed your friend and your husband spend a lot of time together when you're not around. I forced a small laugh. They're just being friendly, I replied, but that night, her words echoed in my mind. 2 weeks later, everything changed. I had attended a fashion event that evening and returned home later than usual. Marcus's car was already parked outside the house. The living room lights were dim. As I walked quietly toward the door, I heard laughter, soft laughter. My heart started beating faster. I stepped closer and looked inside. Monica and Marcus were sitting on the couch. Very close to each other, too close. Her hand rested on his arm, and the way they were looking at each other. It was not the way friends looked at each other. My heart shattered in that moment. I stepped into the room slowly. Both of them froze. Monica immediately pulled her hand away. "Why are you two sitting like that?" I asked quietly. Neither of them spoke. The silence in that room felt heavier than anything I had ever experienced. "Answer me," I said again, my voice shaking. Monica finally stood up. "It's not what you think," she said quickly, but the guilt on Marcus's face told me everything I needed to know. "Get out," I said. Monica looked shocked. "Please listen, get out of my house," I repeated. She grabbed her bag and left without another word. That night Marcus tried to explain, but I couldn't even look at him. The pain in my chest was unbearable. My best friend had betrayed me. The man I trusted most had allowed it to happen. For 2 days we barely spoke. Then something unexpected happened. One evening Marcus walked into the house holding his phone, his face filled with anger. "You need to see this," he said. He handed me the phone. It was a message from Monica. But it wasn't an apology. It was a threat. If Marcus refused to leave me for her, she would spread lies about him online and claim he had been secretly involved with her for months. My heart dropped. Marcus looked exhausted. "She's been pressuring me," he admitted. "Every time I tried to keep my distance, she would cry, manipulate me, or threaten to ruin our marriage." Slowly the truth began to unfold. Monica had deliberately tried to get close to Marcus after moving into our house. She constantly created situations where they were alone together. She told him stories about how lonely she felt, how no one cared about her. Marcus had been foolish enough to comfort her. And somewhere along the way boundaries were crossed, but when she began demanding that he leave me for her, he refused. That was when her real intentions became clear. She didn't just want sympathy, she wanted my life. The next morning I made a decision. I blocked Monica from every part of my life. No calls, no messages, no explanations. Some betrayals do not deserve second chances. It took time for Marcus and me to rebuild trust. The wounds did not heal overnight. There were many difficult conversations, many tears, and many moments when I wondered if our marriage would survive. But slowly, we began to rebuild what had almost been destroyed. Monica disappeared from our lives completely, and sometimes, late at night, I still think about the girl who once called me her sister, the girl who stood beside me on my wedding day, the girl I opened my home to when she had nowhere else to go. And I learned something painful but important. Not everyone who smiles with you truly wishes you happiness. Sometimes the person sitting closest to you is the one waiting for the right moment to take everything you have. Choose your friends wisely, protect your home, and never ignore the small signs your heart tries to warn you about. Because sometimes the people we invite into our lives can either become our greatest support or our greatest lesson.